Some Mondays, it's on your own, do the work at home. And it says right here, for each week and each date, whether or not you're real-time Zoom or independent at home. There's been a little bit of confusion about that, so maybe on Sunday evening, just check that out so that you make sure you know whether or not you need to log in at that time or not, okay? Are there any questions on the clarity of that? James? Okay, good question. Independent means do it on your own, and the next piece of that will answer, the next piece of my announcement will answer that question, James. I expect that you'll have gone through Monday's lectures before class on Wednesday. Like there's a reason for that sequence, okay? And on your weekly task list, which several of you are not looking at, you need to download and look at that weekly task list because I am not putting every little thing you need to do in the announcements because my announcements get too big and hard to follow. Instead, the checklist that I give you tells you what you need to do on what day. So if something's literally due on Wednesday, it'll say that. Moving forward, I will probably add have watched the lecture by Wednesday. You know, I'll probably add that to the task list. Up to now, I think I know your question, Megan, and I'm going to get there. Up to now, I don't really want to actually have to micromanage whether or not you're watching the lectures and stuff. If this was a normal semester, you guys would be in class with me, we'd have these great conversations, I'd talk probably a lot, you'd talk some, and you wouldn't really get points for being there, but you would have learned. Now, I just need you to learn, okay? And it's not happening if you don't watch those things at all. Sometimes they're just extra information that go along with the lab, but it's not necessarily important for you to have for the lab. Like this week, the feeding adaptations, you don't have to know that in order to be able to ID scat, but it's connected. Next week, the lecture really doesn't have to do with Wednesday's lab at all because I had to switch a guest speaker. And so, but I still want you to have this information. This is not a class that's based a lot on like, learn it, I test you on it, we like show that we know it. This is a really kind of an interest-based class. So hopefully you took it because you're interested and that'll show by your participation. So moving forward, you will get participation points for having watched the Monday lecture or done whatever I asked you to do. So I'm trying this tool called Yuja. You saw that I had some problems making questions. Finally figured out how to add the questions and get it to show up in your page. Now it's automatically throwing it into the gradebook. I can't figure out how to delete it, but I only tried for about 10 minutes last night. Don't worry about the zeros in your gradebook all the way at the end that aren't in any category. That was Yuja taking over my gradebook and driving me crazy. That's going to get deleted somehow. It might mean that the whole quiz gets deleted though, so hopefully you had a chance to watch it. That's why I didn't want to mess with it too much last night. Instead, I can go into Yuja and see that you answered the questions. That's where your points will be based off of. Okay. Did I answer it? I thought it was going to be about the gradebook.
That's actually going to be part of it. When I did this in the beginning, but I was assuming that would just go straight to downloading, so like a checklist or an article. And that actually doesn't make it count as seen, so it won't count for that percentage of completion. So actually, be careful to click on the actual name of the item instead of the little arrow that says download, because that just skips the whole step where you can see that we've seen it, if that happens.
I love having smart students in here. I had no idea.
If you open the whole white tab that shows the page, the whole discussion, it doesn't check it off.
Hey, that makes me feel a whole lot better too. Well, now I'll just assume you all have looked at every weekly checklist.
And when I logged in this morning, none of my stuff was checked out at all, and I'm being religious. So it looks like I haven't looked at your stuff all semester.
We'll be checking and I go back.
Yeah, it's totally.
It's showing that you did it on my end, like for today's lab.
But like back in time, and it's hard because when it does that, I'm like, oh crap, did I miss something? And
well, here's the deal. There's bound to be some like rough patches with this. This may be something we do for a little bit and then we like just go with it, you know, how it's been. But, Ryan and Jesse are our work studies. This is Ryan. I don't know if you met Jesse yet in here.
Yes.
But they are going to be the ones that get to go in and see if you participated. So if you're like, no, I watched it and I didn't get the points, just send me a kind email that says, hey, I really did watch it. I'll take your word for it. Okay. It's really not supposed to be a punitive. It's like, hey, let's all like make sure we're doing this because we can't have class together. If you open it and then download it, because especially with PowerPoints and things, the formatting gets weird if you're watching it in the D12 viewer. So I do recommend downloading it eventually, but it sounds like it might just be open it and then download it to make it show up all the way around. Thanks, Megan, Drew, Mary. Any other comments on how things work from a student perspective on D2L that is probably a miss on my end?
Did anyone else, when you were taking that test, when the first question came up, the question came up over the picture, and I put my screen to minimize it, and I couldn't see the picture anymore.
Okay.
And I didn't know if that was me or if that was everyone was having.
And you can't drag, can you drag
I
the
couldn't.
question box?
No, I couldn't move it.
So like, what is this and you can't see it anymore?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was able to get around that a little
It
bit.
was in D12.
If you make the,
Drew's,
if you
hold on,
get
just
the
let this
answer
move.
later, then it'll go away and we'll go back to the video and you can do it that way. But
Okay.
it doesn't really work on the last question because it automatically, like, once you get to that picture again, it pops it up again. So it's kind of hard to take a look at the last one, but at least you can go back to the class and look at the other.
Let me look and see if I can change the placement of it in the creation part.
Okay.
Well, if you open it up on D2L, the question's gonna pop over it. But right by the submit button, there's another little thing that shows like where, like, as I'm enlarging it, it'll open another page, through the YouTube, the video frame thing. And then if you do it there, then it'll still automatically pause it, but instead of popping over the video, it'll pop it off to the side and you can see it there.
Okay.
That's just one thing I've done, because then it even makes it bigger so that I can see the video a lot easier and it's not popping up right there, but it's not.
So one thing I think I'm gonna start, first of all, those of you who have been, like the three of you, who have been using the discussion tool for your, if you have questions on animal sign that you come across, or if you have questions on how to ID things, like an afternoon student posted a really good summary of Bobcat versus Lynx. So pay attention to discussion, but I'll open just an open forum on technology problems. And that way, from your guys' perspective, if you saw something and you figured it out, you could throw it up there. They're doing that for us, if I remember to go in and look. And that's kind of nice, because then you don't have to, I don't have to go ask the one guy who knows Yuja a question that somebody's already asked. Although they're not using it real well, and so, but I think it's a good tool. So we'll open that to see if it helps or not. There's no harm, no foul. It just hangs out there in the discussion pool. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You will not have a pre-lab video for next week. Next week we'll be looking at upland game birds. It'll be in here again, and it'll be stations basically on ID and wing ID and a variety of different things with mostly upland game and waterfowl, although I may throw in some other things. I haven't fully developed yet, so we'll be back here next week. Okay, are there any questions on the life cycle diagram? So the videos were online for that, and last week I handed out this worksheet. If anybody needs one, I got the extras. Any questions on how to make your life cycle diagram?
I have an extra. I'm gonna go find something.
Boy, wasn't it nice weather last week to be outside and beautiful weather today to be inside? I have a pile. Your labs are like this thick, just little questions.
Yeah, so it just has 2 lines for the CPU. Does that mean that we should switch after the singular to the other one, or are we just labeling the same CPU? I mean, the CPU up here and the CPU down here. So I'm just wondering.
Oh, my
Which
page.
is that one?
The page didn't print quite right. This bottom, this bottom this is what's happening sometimes when I email the thing to my website. The bottom goes with the back page. It's just to remind me what species it is, so it doesn't really matter anymore. I can flip the page and see what species we're talking about. And then also, like, if you don't like this format for your circle, you could start with a blank piece of paper and make your own circle and pretty it up however you want. You don't have to stick to like these gaps. You can do it wherever. But make sure that you're like really drawing your lines around to the, month to month of about where things go. And if it's more common, like mating is more common during this period, you can make that part of the line darker, so forth. It should visually represent what they're doing on the yearly basis. So this on your schedule is due next Monday. And that would require you to take a picture of it or scan it and upload it to D2L. However, I'm also fine if you just want to hand it to me on Wednesday. Okay, me or Jen. Actually, it'll be Jen, because I have a meeting. I have a meeting online during this class period next Wednesday. So I'll be in the building, but I probably won't be in this room much. So you can physically hand it to us on Wednesday. It's technically due on Monday. It won't be late if you physically hand it to me on Wednesday. However, the reason I staggered it is because you also have your peer review trade on Wednesday. So let's talk about that for a minute. So you guys should, on D2L, be able to see your partners. So under next week's stuff, I'll pull it up and see. Well, would you hand me that while I pull it up? I'll put it and see where I put it. So I'll pull up your partners right now. I think I put it under species profile, actually. So, portfolio checks. Partners for peer review 1. So this is who I want you to trade with. And before you leave today, you may just want to get their contact information. If you don't know who they are, just stand in the middle of the room and yell their name for a little while. Or you guys could just partner up for this lab and kind of get to know each other. But what you'll need to do is electronically trade your profiles with this person by Wednesday. And then you have another week, I think, to actually review them and grade them and get everything submitted. But honestly, the hardest part of this whole thing is connecting electronically to trade your stuff. So even if you're like, I had next Wednesday on my list, I don't have it, Friday. Even if your partner does, they can give you theirs whenever they want. You just have to give them yours by next Wednesday, okay? Now, if you haven't received your partners by Thursday evening, send me an email. And if I'm Drew's partner, and Drew doesn't get mine, he's going to email the teacher, right? And I then might get left out of the peer review, which is quite a lot of points. Unless Kincaid's partner also doesn't give him, and then I might get, luckily, to get to partner up with Kincaid's partner. So if you don't trade by Wednesday, you may get left out of it, is all I'm saying, all right? So communicate if emails bounce back. If you receive somebody's reply and say, thanks, I got it, so they know that it actually went through and you received it, okay? Might be good to have each other's phone numbers if you are comfortable sharing phone numbers. Otherwise, just share email. But at worst case scenario, you all can email each other through the D2L email. So on this list, on the handout Ryan gave you, Drew, did you get one? Yeah. See this list up here? You're going to be basically looking at their profiles for 3 things. You're going to look at completeness of information. So have they included all the sections? And is there a reasonably significant, a reasonable amount of information for that? At least a few sentences, all right? So completeness, You're gonna look at accuracy. So for accuracy, to save time, and don't forget I said this, because normally I don't tell you until they're in front of you and done and graded. To save time, this time around, let's pick one of the topics that you're gonna like thoroughly and succinctly read for accuracy, so that you don't have to like study every single section that they do for every profile. I would suggest we go with habitat, behavior, habitat or behavior, which one do you want? Behavior, okay. So you're gonna read behavior. You're gonna check it for accuracy based on what your own research has been. And then you only are really taking off there if you find like some glaring mistakes. And so if you think something's wrong, you might have to do a little bit more research to check that, okay? And then if you like happen to see something else that's way off, make a comment on it. So, information accuracy is 3 points. You can, and so is completeness. So if they don't have every section, you should be taking points off for completeness. You can take off a half a point. Let's not go down to the quarter point system. It gets a little crazy. But if you're like, oh, they're just missing a little, it shouldn't be 30% of this section, maybe take off a half a point, all right? But anytime you take points off here, you need to explain why you took points off in the comments part. So missing behavior section, or missing map, or whatever you're missing. Actually, shouldn't have used that as an example. I didn't actually list map on the completeness, so don't take points off for anything that's not listed here. But if you notice it's not there, you might want to make a comment about it so they don't forget to add it. Okay, I think I'll start another, I kind of am liking this open forum thing on discussion. I'll start another one because I guarantee as you start to grade these, you're gonna have some more questions. Normally we grade them in class all together. So as you have questions about that, we'll have that forum going, okay? Okay, yeah, Drew.
Is it supposed to be C for the one?
Oh, I forgot to change it. Yeah, it's
Just wanted
C.
to make sure.
Last year was C. I cut and pasted it over. It's the same animal, so. Okay, questions on this? Then you'll turn in this hard copy to me, and then you'll turn in the electronic version of your profile and of just your profile. So you'll hand me this on the day it's due, and then you'll turn in the profiles electronically. And then I go through and I go, oh man, Josie really nailed Joey. I was like, no, your name's just because Josie really nailed Joey. I might award Joey some points back if someone was too critical. Or, like, why is she being so nice to him? You missed this whole section. I'll go through. So you normalize them so you don't feel like you get hammered because of your partner that you got assigned to. And none of this business, hey, I'll pat your back if you pat me back, my back on this. No. If you give them points, you'll notice that you get points for the reviewer. So if it is apparent that you really didn't put any effort into looking at that, you're not going to get full points. And it kind of is a pretty big chunk of your peer review points. So do a good job. All right. Last but not least, I think we're making our way through some of these. Next week, I am going to have on D2L an extra credit lab for you that you can do anytime, but weather is going to preclude you from doing it at the end of the semester. So we're going to move into, in a few weeks, what I call our life zone lab. So remember on day one, we looked at different life zones. We're going to take field trips to the foothills, to grasslands, and just spend some time exploring, taking down some information, and reporting back together what we found and what might likely be found in that ecosystem. If we get shut down to COVID, you're going to do it on your own, and it worked out pretty well last spring. That's why we're doing it. Well, we have to learn tracks and scat first. But one of the most fun life zones I think to go to, especially at this time of year, is subalpine and alpine. So I posted a lab online that goes through, you can go up to a subalpine or an alpine habitat anywhere that you want. I mean, if you want to go up Trail Ridge Road in Rocky Mountain National Park, that's fine. If you live down by Denver, go somewhere close to home.
Can you get in there for
Yeah.
Yeah.
Water's closed at around.
And Trail Ridge was open a couple days ago. You have to watch it daily.
Even after the snow, so.
Well, it was closed and then it reopened. They plowed like 4 feet.
Well, it was even close before that.
Because of the fire. So watch it. You have to look. Before you get up there, you need to check their website. Make sure. But anyway, all the instructions are online. I have a video of how you do it. But my video was made in the grasslands ecosystem last spring. Full disclosure, I didn't drive up and make you a new video to show you how to do the same thing in a different habitat, all right? So just follow my directions from the video, follow the lab, and then you're gonna record your video on an app. So you're gonna be in that environment. Part of it is a quick video showing where you are, what you've seen, and showing us your landscape. The directions are on the lab. But there's an app called Flipgrid, and I'm trying it with my wildlife management class this week. Trying it with you guys next week. So I'm going to post in your announcements a practice Flipgrid assignment, and it'll be like an introductory thing, like talk about a wildlife memory kind of thing. But for the Alpine Lab, you'll post your video to Flipgrid to a topic for Alpine, and then everyone can watch your video. And it goes pretty fast because you don't have to like download and stuff because it's all in the app. In theory, that's what's going to happen. Okay? Sure, there'll be questions, but no, you have an extra credit lab. You can do it. It'll be worth the replacement of one lab. So if you missed a lab, you can get your points back from that. Or you can just have a bonus of 10 points added to your lab grade for this semester if you want to get up into the Alpine and check that area out. Questions? Not real. If once you look at it online, then let me know if you have questions. Okay. Last but not least, quiz B is graded, so go in and check that out. Kayla, Josie, Daniel. Your scores are correct. I had like a million errors in the quiz when it went live. And it got corrected before the majority of you took it, except for you 3. So let me know if you have questions, but you should be able to go back in. It's going to still show you like Swift and Kit were switched, your matching was off. So you'll see that you got points and you'll know if you actually got it right. Everyone else is in there. I don't think I'll make a video this week of ID because the only commonly missed things were Swift Fox and Kit Fox. And I'd say good luck telling them apart, right? But the main keys are where are you? So your Swift Fox's distribution is mostly eastern plains. Your Kit Fox is southern and western, so mostly like southwestern and very western edge of Colorado. There are some little differences between Kit and Swift. Kit Fox has a narrower muzzle, slightly longer ears, slightly longer tail. But unless they're hugging each other, I'm not real sure how you're going to tell that apart. And their eyes are supposedly a little bit wider. And when you Google Kit Fox, the image I used on the quiz is like all that really comes up. So you have that going for you if you Googled it before. Bobcat versus lynx. Oh, and I will say, there has been controversy on whether Swift Fox and Kit Fox are actually one species, 2 subspecies. But right now, the most accepted view is that they are 2 distinct species, and genetics seems to be supporting that. It might change, though, in the future, so who knows. Lynx and bobcat, the best characteristic is the tail. So a lynx's tail looks like you dipped its whole tail in ink, and it's black all the way around the tip. A bobcat is only black on the top, and the underside is white. If you've ever seen a bobcat, they sit there and they'll flip their tail quite a bit, and that white will show up. The other obvious characteristic is their feet. So bobcat feet are little. Lynx feet are the size of mountain lion feet. But when you're looking at an animal moving through something, you may not see its feet. There's some other minor differences that Archie, a student in our afternoon class, posted in the discussion thread, and she did a real nice job of summarizing those, so feel free to take a look at that. Any questions on the quiz? Next week is birds. All right, so switching gears to jump into the bird world for a little bit. 2 weeks from today, we'll have a guest speaker on Zoom, and she is such a good guest speaker. Even on Zoom, she did it on Zoom for us last year, and it was still awesome. So she's going to do it again for us in 2 weeks. It'll give your brain a little break. You've had a couple easy lists if you already knew your animals, which I'm guessing, you know, learning elk and some of those, it's more familiar than, you know, if you're not a waterfowl hunter, then, or an upland game bird hunter, then these will probably be all new species to you. And so it'll be a little more challenging this next week. Then we'll jump back to some more familiar, so it'll kind of help balance it out. All right, shall we jump into our piles of scat today? Here's what you're going to do. You can pick a partner. I do recommend that you have a partner. And I want everyone to fill out your own lab sheet today so that you can make your own comments. So all this is every tray has a number in it, and some trays have 2 numbers in it. And your job is to figure out who did it, okay? Once in a while, I leave you a clue. Don't move the clues. They look like this. They're highly professionally made, okay? And so don't move the clues. If you could take with you anything that you've already set on the desk so that they're clean as groups go around. To maintain social distancing, no more than 2 people at a table at a time, but you can go through these in any order. So there should always be an open station. You may have the same animal more than once, but poops look different when they are in different seasons or, you know, whatever. So if you have questions, ask. You also should use your field guide. The Mark Elbrook one is really good. And then I've put some of these around the room as well. And so these came out of the back of that half-penny tracking book with the stories that I'm sure you loved last week. But he has some really nice color photos, and then on the last page is the key. So I didn't want to make a ton of copies, but these are kind of scattered around the room, and they're fairly good to help you with your information too. So grab a tape from up here. Probably only have enough for 1 per team on the tape measure. And then last up here are some samples of some that I don't have out here. So check out this case or use it as a reference. And then this, Ray put this together for us a few years back. It's actually samples of what different things look like as they've been found in scat. So if you're like, what is that? Come up here and see. And then you can go, oh, it's a wild plum. I didn't know that. And then you go, well, who wouldn't be eating wild plums, and start narrowing down your list. I have made a key, but I'm not going to be arrogant enough to think that it's 100% accurate. It's not like I watched all of these animals take a squat. So you can talk to us about what we think it is, but you can justify what you think it is as well. All right? All right. Find a partner.